Mr. Olalu Baboye is a macroeconomics analyst at Cardinal Stone. He joins us via this call now. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, how surprising are you? The CBN raised monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 13% on Tuesday. What does this mean for the economy, especially at this time, and why now?
So, in terms of being surprised, I would say that this is not a surprise. Basically, it's something we had anticipated, from our own end here at the start of the year. In fact, we are, given a call that it could happen mid-year or in the second half of the year, right? So we had anticipated about 100 to 50 to 100 basis points. So the surprise is in terms of the aggressiveness, the 150 basis points hike. It wasn't expected, but in terms of the hike, we think it was a matter of when, not if, basically. And the crux of the disposition, or what's from the disposition of the CBN was the elevated inflation. Inflation has been biting hard. It increased by almost 90 basis points to 16.8 in April, which is the latest reading. And this was the focal of what informed the CBN's decision to hike rate. I think it was long overdue, given the fact that most emerging markets and frontier markets are already joined the British parade. It was when we in Nigeria joined, and we finally saw the hike.
Well, the CBN says its decision to raise the lending rate was targeted at curbing the rising rate of inflation in the country, while still cautiously ensuring economic growth. Well, this is a reversal from the CBN's earlier stance that raising rates will not possibly impact inflation. How sufficient is this move? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Baboye?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was asking you that the CBN says its decision to raise the lending rate was targeted at curbing the rising rate of inflation in the country, while also maintaining the economic growth as well. Well, this is a reversal from the CBN's earlier stance that raising rates will not positively impact inflation. Well, how sufficient is this move?
Okay, so yes, like you rightly said, the CBN move was to curb inflation,
right?
And we think that the hike in monetary policy rate might not be sufficient enough to curb this current trend. And the reason is not far-fetched. The current inflationary trend that we're experiencing in Nigeria is a function of two things. Number one is supply-sided factors, and number two, demand-sided factors. The demand-sided factors is a function of the liquidity in the system, the broad money supply, that's the M1 or the M2, as I want to call it, just basically the money supply, which is a function of the dovish stance that we see from the CBN over the last few years. That can be curbed through hike in monetary policy rates. However, the supply-sided factor, which is a function of, for instance, insecurity challenges, which continues to pressure food prices, structural challenges, which has a negative pass-through to inflation. The monetary authority might not be able to curb this through the adjustment of the MPR. It might require the fiscal authority to step in. So we still stand with the initial proposition of the CBN, that the monetary policy rate might not be sufficient enough to curb the inflation. But however, we think that hiking that rate is necessary because it needs to signal confidence to foreign investors that the CBN is on its toes as regards inflation. If you just let it fly, that, we can't curb it, we can't do this, then it begins to bring question to the abilities and capacity of the CBN. So we think it's more of a signaling effect than a direct impact on inflation.
Some experts have argued that the CBN was doing what it was meant to do after all too, but the attention will have to shift to address the fiscal side of the economy. So what are some of the fiscal bottlenecks the government needs to start addressing henceforth? I mean, in other words, how to balance the fiscal aspect to be able to marry what the CBN is doing at the moment?
Yes, so you know, if you go a bit outside the country. You recall that during the heat of COVID, we saw both monetary authorities and fiscal authorities, coming to the rescue, right? In Nigeria here, we think that the fiscal authorities also need to do more. For instance, we need to do more in terms of infrastructure deficits. They also need to do more, for instance, in terms of security challenges. So other factors, like electricity, like power, all this could have a strong impact on the economy to help to, support the activities of what the CBN is doing. So, for instance, we see the CBN trying to encroach into the fiscal authorities' territory by intervening in the real sector, agro intervention, manufacturing intervention. Yes, it's fine, it's absolutely good. But then, if the fiscal authority was doing as much as the CBN was doing, right, we'll see a better impact, than what we're seeing at the moment.
I mean, so what would you point specifically to that should be worked on from the fiscal point of discussion?
So just to pick just two major ones, I think security is very much important now. Take, for instance, if you look at FDI numbers in Nigeria, FDI numbers have been badly beaten over the last 6-7 years because of infrastructural problems that we have in Nigeria. And companies could hardly come to Nigeria from foreign investors to set up their firm in, for instance, in another part of Nigeria, because security continues to take a toll on activities in that, in that region of the economy. So we think that the government needs to tackle security. Secondly, we think that the government needs to enhance, core involvement of the private sector. If you look at the national plan that was released, that the government worked on some time ago, there come talks around partnership with the private sector. They need to do this more. They need to get the private sector to be much more involved. The issue of electricity needs to be also tackled. We've had some companies, where electricity payments and energy costs constitute a very significant portion of their operating expenses. So if electricity was stable, it would have been much more beneficial. If this correct, right?
Hello, Mr. Baboye. Hello, Mr. Baboye. Well, I think we're having a bit of a challenge is having a flow conversation with a seamless conversation with Baboye there. But looking at the CBN's decision rising from today to meeting yesterday to look at how to hike the interest rates, and according to CBN, so also to encourage capital, inflow as well.
Hello.
Thank you for, yes, I'm aware you're back. Yes, continue with that thought, please.
So I was saying that, if there could be, all this infrastructure.
Hello, Mr. Baboye. Well, I think it's still a challenge here. Well, yes, CBN, of course, the side to sacrifice, as some analysts will look at it, the side decided to sacrifice. Okay, I mean, let me just chip in these before you continue. If you can hear me, Mr. Baboye, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me chip in here. Some people have also, some analysts have also posited that CBN is trying to sacrifice the growth of the economy. Yes, the CBN came out to say, yes, we're trying to tame inflation, the curb inflation, and at the same time, we can also manage the economy. But if you look at the growth of the economy in the first quarter of 2022, the economy grew by 3.1%. But year on year, yes, it grew. But if you compare it to quarter and quarter, it's a decline from what you had in the last quarter of 2021, from about 3.9% to 3.11% in the first quarter of the year. So what do you think the CBN is trying to achieve here?
Okay, so great, right? I don't think that the CBN is sacrificing growth. Before I go into that, I would like to put a bit of clarity to this.
Hello, Mr. Baboye. Well, I think We're still having issues connecting to Mr.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please
Okay.
continue.
Okay, so I said when we are looking at the GDP rates, we have some sectors in Nigeria that are heavy weighted sectors, like agri, which is about 25% of the entire economy. It's seasonally driven. Hence, when you do quarter-on-quarter analysis, it tends to give you does not paint the exact picture because of the seasonal factors. So you normally expect, Q1 numbers to be higher in the agri sector, for instance, than Q2 because of seasonality factors. So it's better to just look at year-on-year numbers and also look at it historically. So when you look at the year-on-year number that was recorded in 2022 for first quarter, that was the highest first quarter growth that we've had over the last 7 years since 2015. And that's a strong signal to the economy. Now, coming to if the CBN has sacrificed growth for inflation, I don't think so. When you look at the order of priority at the moment across the globe, across the emerging market and foreign market, inflation takes precedence ahead of growth. And we think that that is simply what the CBN has done. Inflation taking precedence ahead of growth. We think that growth is the state where it's no longer as fragile as what we had last year or during the recovery process. We think that the economy is now strengthening, which gives a bit of leg room for the CBN to be able to turn hawkish to curb the current inflationary trend. So we don't think that because of this hawkish trend, growth will likely decline or nosedive.
Just a moment. Permit me to jump in a little bit. So what do you make of these? The inflation rate is rising at 16.82%. Of course, the interest rate had just been hiked from 11.5% to 13%. But if you look at the real GDP, it's declined quarter on quarter. So what do you make with that? How do you reconcile that? Hello, Mr. Boboye. Well, I was going to ask, Boboye to just, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you heard my question when
Yes, I did.
Yes, okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I said, like I mentioned earlier, quarter-on-quarter growth will never tell the story. And I will try to break it down. You have a sector like agri, which is seasonally driven. In some quarters, growth are normally higher, right? Which makes the economy cyclical. For you to look at it, you need to net off seasonal factors. If you net off seasonal factors, it will show you the true picture. And that's why it's better to look at it from a year-on-year perspective and look at how year-on-year first quarter has performed over the last few years. And like I said, this is the highest first quarter growth.
Hello, Mr. Boboye. Well, I think we're still having this challenge with Mr. Boboye trying to connect poor signal messing up with the flow of conversation there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, we have you back now.
Yes.
Just trying to say that, of course, we're having a poor signal trying to mess up with the flow of conversation. I mean, please continue as we try to wrap up now.
Yeah, so I was just saying that quarter-on-quarter growth does not tell the right story because of seasonal factors. Hence, it is better to look at year-on-year growth. And we don't think that this rate hike will dampen this current growth trend that we are seeing. In fact, we think that growth by the end of the year will settle at 3%. And we think that for second quarter of the year, that's Q2, we will see growth at 2.9%. Because the reason why we are seeing that slight moderation is because of seasonal factors, right?
Okay. Now let's wrap up with this. Now, what will be the impact of these on the masses, on the macroeconomic activities, on the ordinary man in the street? I mean, give us a sense of that. I mean, how should small investors or that small investment or business in the corner, a little corner there, plan around this interest rate hike?
Okay, so before I quickly talk about the impact on the informal sector, the small businesses out there, it is good to also point out the direct impact on the market on foreign investors. Firstly, we think that this sends a strong signal to foreign investors and also sends a bit of positive pass-through, to currencies. And this could, give us a picture that carry trade will be improved and reduce the magnitude of devaluation that we might see by the end of the year. So analysts like us are forecasting about 7% devaluation. But with this spike, we think that we might be seeing a lesser devaluation. Also, we think that for the fixed income market, it will support higher yield increases. Now, moving on to the direct impact on demand on the street. One of the things is if the CBN, progressively increase rates to tackle inflation,
Right.
be a pass-through on prices in the market, which might have a bit of impact, a slight impact, on the masses out there in terms of, cost of purchase and cost of buying things. Aside from that, right, we also think that the expectation for a reduced magnitude of devaluation could also be positive for businesses that are into, import and export activities. It could help them it could give them a bit of stability and a bit of clarity.
Well, I think we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Olaoluboboye. He's a macroeconomics analyst at Cardinal Stone. Thank you for your time on Business Breakfast.